We're going to practice core sentence trees using this Iglesias article. They're a way to do shorter, quicker trees with fewer nodes. Basically, you put in the most important stuff and you leave out the less important stuff. This is hard for beginners who don't yet understand very well what's important and what's less important. It's good for medium-level people. If they're having a hard time with a sentence, they can focus on just the important parts and leave out the rest. It makes it easier to get it right, and then they can do the full tree afterwards. It's also good for advanced people who probably don't need the full tree. They can just do a quick tree with the harder parts and skip the rest. What goes in a core tree? It's flexible. It's up to you how much detail you want to include, but there are some rules of thumb, like you should have the verbs that lead clauses, and you're going to want the conjunctions between clauses. Those are very important. Subordinators that nest clauses tend to be important. Anything involving a whole clause is generally important and should be included. You also tend to want the subjects and complements for your verbs and any auxiliary verbs. And when the sentence has multiple verbs together instead of a single verb, that is notable. Like could have gone, all three of those words are pretty important. What are you leaving out? Details, simple modifiers, asides. The primary thing being left out are modifiers. And sentences have a lot of modifiers, so that often means leaving out like half the words. So, first sentence here. As a first-year college student, I shared a 2-room suite with another guy. So, first we've got this part before the comma with an as. And we need to understand what's going on here and should it be included. So, as could be a preposition or a conjunction. How do you figure it out? It's pretty easy here because you look at the rest and look at what is it. A first-year college student, is that a clause or is it a phrase? Well, there's no verb, so it can't be a clause. It must be a noun phrase, which means the as is not a clause conjunction, it's a preposition. So we have a prepositional phrase here, it's a modifier. Because it looks like a decent chunk of the sentence, there's a comma involved, it could potentially be confusing if you ignore it or don't know what it is. I'm going to include it. But we can't start with it because it is a modifier. So where is the subject? Where's the verb? I shared. Pretty simple. And then what was shared? A suite. And with another guy is a modifier. It looks simple enough that I'm going to ignore it. And a and 2-room are modifiers on suite, telling us about the type of suite. So I'll ignore them as well. So we make a tree, and verb is the leader of the clause. So it's I shared suite. This is the core of the sentence. And I'm going to add a modifier, the as student thing. What does it modify? What is it telling us about? Telling us about the circumstances in which the sharing happened. As student. Student is the prepositional object here. Looking up words is often helpful. You can see as can be an adverb, conjunction, or preposition. Just checking what parts of speech a word can be is often helpful. So earlier I talked about conjunction and preposition. It wasn't going to be an adverb here. So that is the first sentence done. I shared suite, and we've got this as student modifier. We set up our space. No, it's we set our space up. I read it wrong. Set up is a very common thing. So we've got like a main idea, then we've got an as, and a bunch of details, then we have an and. We'll have to figure out if there's another and as well. We have to figure out if these ands are conjoining clauses or phrases. We've got a which, that can be important, and then we have an is, so we definitely have another verb here. How can be important. With is probably just going to tell us some details. Though, that one can be important. More verb. This one's getting quite long. As, which, in order to... Okay. We've got more verb here. This one is very long. So this will be a harder test for looking at the core parts. Okay, so we set up space appears to be the main idea. I'll start with that. Then I'll add things on and see how it goes. So as one small bedroom is a modifier. Setup is not technically a verb, by the way. The up is a preposition, but I think it is easier to just view setup as a verb. The combined thing. And it is reasonable enough. It's going to work fine. But we could have set as the verb and then up as its child and then space as the child of that, if we wanted. I often take some sort of verb construction with multiple words and put it in a single node. It's simpler and easier, and for most purposes, it's fine. This one might even be in the dictionary. Dictionary often has some phrases. Set about, set aside, set in, set off. It's probably going to be here. We just got, yep, set up. So set up is in the dictionary as a specific phrase with a meaning. Phrasal verbs. So they're saying you can use these combinations and it basically counts like one verb. Okay, so the as one small bedroom is a detail. And then the containing two single beds is another detail. Okay, we set it up as X and Y. We also set it up as a living room. So this seems to be continuing a list. So it's just a phrase conjunction with our desks and a television. So this and is joining desks with television. So again, a phrase conjunction nested within this with preposition. So details. I'm going to ignore all of this because the sentence is too complicated to include this level of small detail. Even though it's just as big as I included previously, we need to leave it out this time and really focus on the core ideas. We have this which is very important because it's joining this is. We've got another clause coming in. We're going to need students as well. Then we have with similar setups arranged things. Oh, that's modifying. Okay. So this is a modifier that tells us the type of students. We don't need the most. That's the detail. Okay, though you could, of course, could have done it. Oh, I read could twice, but there aren't two coulds. Though you, of course, could have done it. So we don't need the of course. That is an interjection, minor detail. Anyway, so we have the though you could have done it. So that's important. Then we have as two different bedrooms. That is preposition, modifier stuff. One of which you need to walk. This is, so there is a clause involved, but it is nested. Details, I'm going to ignore it for now. So we got important stuff. So I've made an effort to highlight the really important words that I want to fit in. We're going to consult the dictionary again for this word though. Conjunction. Okay, I thought it looked like it was playing a conjunction role there, but I was not positive offhand that it's a conjunction, so I looked it up. And it is a conjunction. So there we go. Though is a conjunction. I'm going to create little mini trees first to get started. The subject of the which, the subject of the is which, and it is also the conjunction that's joining things. I'm not sure if it is a relative adverb here, because it's just joining a noun phrase. Wait, is it? Oh, it's students arranged things. I left out the verb. Okay, it is a relative adverb. So it's how arranged things. Okay, there we go. We've got the structure. So this which is actually nested under some of the details. So we set our space up as x. And this x represents a bunch of details, like details. And then we can do that. Did not drag on quite how I wanted, so I'll put the switch here. There we go. The switch refers to the details. The details of how it was set up is how you could arrange things. It's how most students arrange things. Most is actually a pretty important word here. Because it's saying it's only some of the students, but it's the majority. So it's actually kind of hard to understand the meaning of the sentence without the word most. So I threw it in. Okay, now where does this though thing go? What does it modify? This is actually a detail. We could just say we're done. We've got the main idea. But the sentence keeps going. It wants to tell us around 4 things at once. It is way too much. It is a hard sentence. And it's completely unnecessary. I think it modifies like everything. There we go. So it is joining the setup with the could have done. I think. It's hard to tell for sure, but that seems reasonable. So because it's joining the setup with something else, it had to go above it, just like the word and would go above it to join it with something else. So the setup part is more important. But that doesn't mean it goes on top, because it's being joined with something else. So the joiner goes on top. Okay, and then what was that last part? We have the one of which you'd need. So we do have another clause down there. Okay, so we have as, details. Then I want to put in, it's as bedrooms. I'll just say bedrooms. It's nice when you can have one word that represents a group. I could try to do that with the other group. What is it? It's a small bedroom, as one small bedroom. Okay, as bedroom. Okay, as bedrooms. And we have which. And then we have would need to walk as the whole verb phrase. Maybe it's just would need. Let's see. Yeah, I'm going to do it as would need. Okay. You and to walk. And then the rest I can skip. No more clauses, at least. Note that I had to take the you'd, the contraction, and split it up. Contractions frequently have to be split up when you're doing analysis, because you need to put the words in them in different nodes. So you'd became the you plus the would. Okay, that took a while, but if you want to do all the words in the sentence, it would take even longer. Alright, now we have a shorter sentence. Other students were assigned to the first year dorm in which everyone just got their own tiny bedroom. So if the students were assigned, we've got a subject and verb there. And then we have a which and a got, so we do have a second clause. But it's not the main clause. So, were assigned students. We have 2 dorm in which got everyone, and what did they get? Their own tiny bedroom. Okay, that one was much quicker. Students were assigned 2 dorm in which got everyone bedroom. Everyone got bedroom. Students were assigned 2 dorm in which everyone got bedroom. When you're reading that, you can go like mostly in order, but reading subjects before verbs sounds nicer. Okay. Either way, detail, most of us had to use shared toilet and shower facilities in the... I'm going to turn off reader mode and see if the type is still there. Yep, still there. Okay. We'll just ignore that part. So, it's most. Most is the subject, not us. Us is the prepositional object of. It seems sort of like it's us had to use, which sounds weird, because us is the wrong word for that. It would be we had to use. It's in the object form rather than the subject form. Which makes sense because it is the object of us. Of us is the object of. Anyway, so it's most had to use shared toilet. So had to use most and and I'll throw in the conjunction this time since it's a simple enough sentence. We have toilet and facilities. And they are shower facilities. But the core word there is facilities. Shower is the modifier. Right, next. You could have. So we've got the verb could have and the subject you. And the object, a mini fridge. Mini fridge. In your room is a detail and a microwave to heat up frozen pizza or burrito. So you could have a mini fridge and a microwave, and then the microwave has a modifier telling us what it's for, which is to heat up a frozen pizza or burrito. Okay, so I threw in the to heat as a modifier in microwave, and then you got the main idea. So this is the simpler core tree. What is next? We have some, and then we have a modifier. So some's going to be the subject, probably. Some of, or interpreting, yeah, some had. Okay, so we have had, some. I'll include students because that's pretty important for understanding what type of sum it is. I guess I should use the of as well. So it is sum of, well, no, it doesn't make sense grammatically to include the of, so I'm just going to do this. It's not really some students because it's some of the, but it's close enough. All right, and then they had kettles, and then the kettles have this which on them. And we have a could be used verb, so that's important. So then the implied subject here is the kettles. So it's the word which is repeated here, which is the subject and the conjunction, and then the which refers to kettles. So the kettles could be used for tea, but also to make. You know what? I'm just going to leave that out. That is the details of what they could be used for. Don't care. Okay, traditional hot plates are a fire hazard. So we have are is our verb. Are plates. I'll include hot because they're not regular plates, they're hot plates. It's pretty different. But I don't care that they're traditional or electric. Hot gets the point across well enough. Okay, and they are hazard. A and fire are details, so they're hazard, and then we have in that situation details, and then we have but, so we have a major conjunction here. We need a border on this node. Oh, we need a shape on this node. There we go, I fixed it. Okay, so but joining this main idea that the plates are hazard and joining something else. What are we joining? Okay. Burner. And induction is an important word. You're understanding the sentence and be useful. Okay. Induction burner would be useful. Are. No, we're going to need the while, aren't we? Yep, all right, we have two clauses here. So it's while. And then the main clause is actually going to be used to be. So they used to be common. And then the subordinate clause says are arrangements common. All right, we've got the main words. So this this structure tree does not have the main idea of the sentence. Like you can see there, we're saying common and common again. We're paralleling something related to common. But the important thing is that they are common today for college students, but they used to be common for non-college students. And we left out details like college students and other people. The for college students and the for other people. So you could include that, and then the tree would explain the sentence better. You can see the main grammatical structure here is this while conjunction with two clauses. We have the used to be clause and the are clause. By the way, they right here equals arrangements. So it is arrangements used to be common and arrangements are common. Those are the two clauses. You can see the parallelism pretty well. Okay, this next one, I found the conjunction as. Then we're going to do the main clause, which is alien escapes. Escapes. Alien. Oh, it's actually an and group. We have and. The alien is doing two things. He's escaping and deciding. But there's a shared subject. We have escapes and decides with the shared subject alien. So this is the verb. The lead node is the and so then we've put the subject nested under the lead node of the verb. And Peyton Chung recalled this. Peyton Chung is a single node because it is a proper noun. It is one thing. Peyton is not a modifier of Chung. Chung is not a modifier of Peyton. It is a phrasal noun. The two words go together as a phrase to make a single noun. It's common with proper nouns. Similarly, we have here Columbia Heights. That, as a proper noun, is a single thing. So you would want to put it as one node. You can see the etymology is probably Columbia as a modifier of heights. That's probably how people are thinking of it. It does look like a modifier plus a noun. However, as a proper noun, it is just the name of something. It is a single name. It's a two-word name. So single node for it would be good. The fact that the words are capitalized is a big hint that it's a proper noun. Okay, let's keep going and do a few more. We now have a different author writing because it's a quote. So we'll see if the style is different. We'll try this. I'll do one more paragraph probably. So Klaatu checks into a boarding house at. So at, it's just a preposition, a modifier. It's telling us where the checking in is taking place. So we have checked and Klaatu. And what does he check? It's going to be into house. And we're done. Sometimes these core sentence things are really short. Even the into house could be left out if you wanted to. It is a modifier on checks, a pretty important one. Frequently, if there is no object or complement for the verb, then I will put one main modifier. Like sometimes we use a prepositional phrase after a verb instead of an object or a complement. And so it's often good to include that. Okay, next one. Each room houses. We have houses as a verb, room as the subject, and then and there is scant privacy. So we have another clause there, and we have a colon, and everyone overhears everything. It's another clause. 3 clauses. So I'll ignore the colon to get started. Do the other two, which follow a standard pattern. And, so we're doing 2 things here. One is houses, that's the verb. Okay, room, houses, 1 or 2 people. 1 or 2 are modifiers, people is the main word. The room houses people. And then also, I'm going to ignore the as such. That's a modifier. There is scant privacy. We have is. So there is privacy, which is kind of misleading because scant kind of means not privacy. Anytime you have a not modifier or something similar, it is pretty important. So I'm going to include that. Because if it reverses the meaning of the word and you leave it out, you get a misleading tree. Okay, so I'm going to put a colon here and treat it as a submodifier telling us about the is, or about the group, the clause, giving us additional details about the is privacy thing. So it is overhears as the verb. Subject is everyone. And object is everything. There we go. Next paragraph looks quite quick. I'm going to do it too. I'm going to ignore the who knows little, even though it is a clause. It's just giving some details about clause 2. It's kind of like an aside, or kind of like a parenthetical. So we have but as the conjunction. Then we've got two different more main clauses. There is. There's our verb. Subject is this. And convenient is the complement. So it's convenient for Klaatu, but probably annoying for Earthlings. Oh, I see. You either have to read in implied words or group things differently with but as a phrase conjunction. So I already started doing it as a clause conjunction, so I'll do the implied words. This is convenient, but implied, this is annoying. I will show the alternative as well. It would be is this, but, and then the but would be joining the convenient with the annoying. So a different grouping. Okay, next one. Conditions like these were common in DC homes at the time. We have a straightforward, simple sentence, one clause. Conditions were common. Were. Conditions is the subject of were. And common is the complement of were. It is linking conditions to common. That is enough practice for now. So this had a few purposes. One, it shows practice. You can practice too. It will help you if you practice. And two, it shows you how to do core sentence trees, how you can leave out some of the less important words and get smaller trees. This can make things quicker, and it can make things simpler, which helps you avoid errors. If your focus is on the simpler, if you're trying to avoid errors, then after you make the simple tree, you can go in and add the rest of the words back in. In fact, I will do that right now for this one, the bottom. So we have the structure tree with just the main words, and then we can add in the details afterwards, and it shouldn't involve much rearranging. The structure should not change. So let me highlight the sentence. So the conditions are like these. So as a modifier on conditions, were common, and then we have an in modifier on common, and it was in homes, and what type of homes? DC homes. And then we have at the time. And I need to figure out what that modifies. Wait, this does not modify common. It's either going to modify conditions or were. I just put it after common on autopilot because it came after common, but it does not modify common. That doesn't make sense. In DC homes is not telling us like a type of commonness or nature of commonness or something. It's telling us where they were common. So I think it is modifying the were. That also makes sense conceptually as the conditions being in DC homes. But I think if it was conditions in DC homes, the indice homes modifier would be before the verb. Since it came after the verb, I think it's supposed to modify the verb. And you could put an and here. Conditions were common in DC homes and at the time. But I think it is two different modifiers on the were. At the time is telling us when the conditions like this were common. Okay, so at the prepositional object is time, and then the is a modifier in time. So the core part did not change, I just added modifiers to it, which is reasonably common when you add the details, that the core part won't have to move around at all, and you just add modifiers on the edges. So if you're having trouble with sentences, you can try to get to just the verbs and the conjunctions first, and then you can add in the subjects, objects, and complements. Then you can add in the prepositional phrases, and then you can add in the simple modifiers. When you're doing the prepositional phrases, you can start with just the prepositions, then you can add in their nouns, and then after that you can add in the extra modifiers. For example, this the here. So if you practice this kind of thing, and you get good at it, then you will automatically do some of it while you're reading. You will better understand the structure without even making the tree once you have enough practice. That means you'll make fewer reading errors and understand what you're reading better. This is one of the bottlenecks that prevents people from being good at philosophy and good at debating and critical thinking and all that. They make a lot of mistakes when they try to debate because they're not understanding the structure of the sentences that they read and write. And the solution to that is practice this kind of skill until it becomes more automatic, something that your subconscious can mostly handle. If you can't do it subconsciously, then trying to do it consciously every single time takes a long time. It's going to distract you from reading or debating or whatever to make all these trees. So you need your subconscious to be able to do most of the work automatically. And then you can consciously make trees occasionally for some hard parts, but not most of the time, unless it's something really important and you're willing to go really, really slow.